Alrighty, we're back again with another Moonkin Monthly. This time I'm joined by Sang and Gape again for another world first spectacular. Fortunately enough, this time Nyalotha was a bit stocks were a bit low for balance, but now we're back with a lot more Moonkins in the raid. Congratulations, guys! Congratulations, Sang and Gape.
Thanks.
Thank.
One singular thank. So for those who don't know you guys, Sang, where can people find you? What do they want to know about you? What should they know about you? Kind of deal.
Finding me, I mean, I stream not consistently, so there's that. But I do stream at twitch.tv/SingHelios. Wow. Basically, that's
And what do you
where I
do on
stream.
your stream aside from playing Moonkin?
Well, I do whatever. Honestly, I play the expansion kind of like a normal person, maybe not. A little weird. Collect mounts, farm achievements, and do whatever I feel like doing.
Fair enough.
That's
And
about
Gabe?
it.
Yep. Same. I
Also-
love doing random shit in WoW. Not as much as saying probably, but
You
Random
love-
shit. Right? I'm the random guy.
well, it's
You'll-
funny. The other day, someone in my chat was like, well, "Why are you doing Animal World quests?" And it's like, "Well, because I'm playing the expansion. Like, I want to get all of the shit. There's like a bunch of mounts to get and stuff." And dude's like, "You're a druid. Why do you need to collect mounts? Like, you just have travel forms." Like, I don't need to. I just want to.
Do you guys even use mounts outside of travel form? Really? I don't. I don't use
I use
anything.
mounts are 20% faster than travel form mount in the world. Long distance traveling.
But
Yep,
wild
also
charge.
20% longer to get on a mount, so no.
Also true.
I also can't wild charge my mount.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, and you were asking for introduction, so I guess twitch.tv Gapezilla, that's me.
All right, there we go. That's where you can find these guys if you are looking for other high level content. Of course, they are both members of Complexity Limit, the back-to-back world champions.
Yup.
So, yeah. All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the fights first. I think that's the logical segue. I feel like we saw a lot more Moonkins definitely than Nyalotha. Even saw two of them on Sire to Nathria's, where I think only Sang was in for N'Zoth. Why do you guys think that we saw more Moonkins in Nathria in general? I guess Sang, you can start it off since. I don't know.
Honestly, I think it was just better balancing in general. You didn't have classes like Fire Mage and Nyalotha just like doing double or triple the damage of like other classes in certain situations. So it's like more like there's these classes that kind of were like maybe like 10 to 20% better than like others in some situations rather than like 100%. So like corruption scaling was just kind of off. There was like kind of just more just it was just in general like better balancing. And I think Moonkin was just pretty up there as well, like above most others on like in all situations. So
They also didn't design the end boss to require 10 immunities this time, so
yeah, it was
that's
also
nice.
that.
As our guild would like to say, Moonkins have an iron ass, and that was enough to be in on a lot of these bosses.
Oh, you're talking about the relative tankiness of the spec?
Yes.
Yup.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna go into that more in depth in a little bit, but yeah, dude, well-honed instincts and our endurance conduits are actually just nuts. Plus, Barkskin being 1 minute CD.
Yeah, Barkskin's always good, or usually good, but in the case of Denathrius specifically, I guess Sludge Fist too is another like hard boss Moonkin's really good on. It just lined up perfectly with like the biggest damage events, so very nice.
Yeah, it definitely does make a lot of sense in those fights. All right, so we're gonna talk about the first three. Shriekwing Huntsman and Hungering Destroyer. Obviously, not exactly the most relevant fights, but we did see. I think were you both in for all three?
Yep. We did most of the raid, assuming that there's going to be double Moonkin on Denathrius, and probably on like Stone Legion as well. So all of the easy loot bosses just tried to have the assumed kill comp in. So yeah, we
Okay.
were in for those three.
So with that being said, do you think that Moonkin kind of got carried on a couple of these fights? Because I feel like in Shriekwing and Hungering Destroyer, not exactly any favors done to Moonkin with how much movement there feels like on those fights.
Got carried a bit because we were playing Kyrian, perhaps. I think if we were Knife A from the beginning, single target bosses would not have really been a carry. It's actually like
Yep.
the other way around, especially when you look at scaling. Like Knife A just blasts straight out of the gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about the scaling of the spec. It's definitely in a weird spot where it's like Balance of All Things is a great legendary, but at the same time, like we have no room for secondary stat scaling because now our best stats are mastery and versatility, kind of. And it's like I don't know what to do about that.
Yep, it's pretty disgusting, honestly. I've said this for a long time, but if your class ever like wants verse, there's been like, sorry about the background noise. There's been some failure in the design of the spec. Like your class should never want verse. That should always be just like a oh yeah, I have some verse. Okay, I'm a little tankier and like I do a little bit of extra damage, or like as a PvP stat. It should never be like you want to stack verse. Otherwise, you've got a scaling problem.
I mean, we were talking about it a little bit pre-show. Scaling problem is more of a buzzword than anything else, but I think actually Moonkin has reached the point where we were I think all concerned about how it's going to scale into the second raid tier because it does not get any better than where it currently sits with Balance of All Things, and like Night Fate doesn't really scale with secondaries that well either. So weird spot.
Yep.
Huntsman Altamore, anything notable about that fight? Not really.
Not really. It's like, again, all the first bosses are just kind of loot bosses. I'd say, like, again, Moonkin gets like 2 target like the whole fight pretty much. So it's like, okay, but it's like, I think it's like kind of the same situation where like I think other classes maybe gain more 2 target than Moonkin, so end up being a little worse on those on that boss than like Shriekwing and Hungering, just because I think we're actually like stronger on single target than gain less on 2 target.
Fair point.
Yeah, I mean when your class is immediately swapping to their AoE talents as soon as you hit 2 targets, it's like it's a bit weird, you know.
Well, I don't know. I feel like it's at least better that way than it has been previously.
Well, yeah. I mean, I obviously prefer to press Starfall when there's multiple guys out. I hate Star Surge. I hate BFA. But, like, I don't know.
I will say I'm moderately surprised about the amount of times that I've played Stellar Drift and Star-Lord together in this raid instance. I ended up playing it. I ended up playing it on Enerva. I ended up playing it on. I think it's pretty good on Council of Blood as well. I don't know. I don't know what I expected. I also played it on Artificer. I don't know really what I expected at this point, but I feel like it was. I was not expecting to play Stellar Drift with Star-Lord as much. I don't know why.
I don't think I would run Star-Lord on Council. I think actually we tried Star-Lord on Council the first few
No,
pulls,
I don't think we ever
and
did, actually.
we swapped to Soul really fast.
Yeah.
It feels really bad. If you're gonna, I think in a nervous situation it's good, because there are specific times when you press Starfall, but on Council, as soon as the first boss dies and the second guy is just spam spawning ads, like, yeah, some of the ad sets get gripped in because of like DK Covenant ability, so they're just getting auto gripped and they die really fast. But most of the ad sets are dying as new ads are spawning, so you actually have 100% Starfall uptime after the first boss dies, pretty much.
I think a lot of the like reasoning too, of like just not running a Star-Lord is like more that like Star-Lord just is really bad when you're just pressing Starfall all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Soul is just like I mean, it's better. It's like maybe like even if you're not like necessarily getting the most benefit out of like cleaving Starfires or that, it's like better than what Star-Lord would give you.
Yeah,
I mean,
why am
it-
I gonna play a talent that's at half effectiveness for the entire fight because I never stop pressing Starfall?
Incarns are spread AoE talent, though.
Good one.
Key.
I don't know if it's necessarily good, but it is. What?
Rip Incarn.
Yeah, kind of a dead talent right now. All right, so
Skillet if you PvP.
yeah, true. So Sun King, Artificer, and Enerva. I feel like this is actually where Moonkin starts to get pretty good. Most notably on like Sun King and Artificer. You have Heart of the Wild healing on Sun King. We saw you guys do some weird shit with Holy Priest. I think that caught almost everybody off guard. Initially with Guardian Spirit, and then like obviously Heart of the Wild off healing. Was that like a pre-planned strategy?
The Holy Priest thing? I'm pretty sure, yeah. Although it took us a few more pulls because I think I don't know 100% why. I think the priest thought that maybe the fight would be easier than it was, and they also summons weren't working, so it takes like 10 minutes to get back to the raid if you zone out to change something. And there's a conduit, I think, that priests want to run when they're doing that, like Guardian Spirit build that they didn't have. A little rocky, I think, the first few pulls, but it's a pretty easy boss when you have double GS.
Dude, having to control the ads, those birds, the whole entire time on that fight, I feel like that makes that fight miserable. Like, I saw Sang, you were the one who was controlling the ads, right, Sang? Calling for.
Oh yeah, I
timing and
mean, overall the fight's like a pretty giant meme. It's like I'm literally like just occasionally pressing Starfall, kind of just casting out whatever while managing ads, and then like the only thing I do that's like I mean that fight like you literally just get by just only making certain checks. So like anything else you do the entire fight like almost doesn't matter. Like you can like 15 man that boss, and
Mhm.
just as long as you're making the healing shield checks and the DPS shield checks and the healing overall healing check, you're just fine.
The meme status has been elevated now that we're Night Fae too, because we're just using every convoke, slamming it into
a shield.
Kel'Thas
Yeah. Are you guys using it for healing? What are you guys using it for?
healing.
Healing,
Oh my god.
like strictly healing.
Dude, my guild has me getting out of the raid and like making sure that the birds are far enough away to where I can celestial alignment convoke into the shield, and then beyond that I'm literally just fucking dealing with the birds the whole entire time. It's absolutely miserable.
Crats.
Rats.
Congrats.
I think it's like maybe the second time where like, you know, is the being the world first spot, like taking the fucking utility super managing role as Moonkin has become the normal twice. I think the first time was Crucible of Storms,
Oh my
fucking
god.
first boss, and now it's this one. It's great.
Dude, okay, speaking of that, I got a bone to pick with you for Artificer. Seed running is actually just the most miserable shit imaginable. I don't know how you did it without Night Fae on Prague, Sang.
You have to like really learn like exactly how to do it. It's very tight timings, and like, dude, like if I could fucking show you some of the fucking progression, like super close calls that were just like ultimate fucking 2 million IQ plays to do it without dying. It was insane. I think the first kill was like some of those first attempts were crazy.
Yeah. Do you guys think that Moonkin is actually good for seed running on Artificer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like good at getting around without like you it's pretty tanky, so you don't generally die, but also just like really fast. You can run across the room like instantly, which is kind of like a big thing, getting across the room, because a lot of times it's not, at least for my seat anyways, it's not like, you pick it up, run it to the nearest portal, drop it off, go back through the portal. It's not as simple as that ever. It's like I have to like pick my seat up, run it across the room manually, drop it off, take the portal out the very last second. It's like how it is because with the thing. But like not a lot of classes can like do that without either portals or blinks or like even like alter time and stuff like that. It's like the stuff you need to do that.
Yeah.
Tiger Dash is very good.
It's the first time I think that we've seen a fight where Tiger Dash is probably the best talent in a while.
Yep. It's a very special talent that I don't think would ever generally want to use unless you have a specific job to do like that.
Yeah, I mean,
But it lines up really well. I mean, it's up for every seed run, so how could it not be the best?
I've had problems with the Edge of Annihilation seed set. I mean, I figured it out with the Night Fae Blinks. It feels pretty easy to do whenever you have Night Fae Blinks, but beyond that, I don't know how the hell you guys did that as Kyrian.
Yeah, basically, what the Farseed is like, you'd be running against it on your own corner of the room, pick it up, the edge would go off finally. You'd fucking activate Tiger Dash, sprint across the room at lightning speed, drop the seed off. The seeds would be exploding as you went through the portal.
Okay, so you were
And
actually just praying.
sometimes you got a ghost too. That was like when you were doing your runs, you had to like dodge a fucking ghost while running from the annihilation all by yourself, and you can't use your movement speeds early because you got to use them after it blows up. So it's like pretty scary, but
Yep, you're using Roar at a specific time for the raid too, so it's not like you can crutch on Roar.
Mm-hmm.
That's not your button to press.
dude, never your button to press, unfortunately.
That's fine.
Or
That's like raid utility that you get brought to the raid for.
yeah, that is true. Pretty nice. It's a nice button to that. I'm glad that we have this expansion.
Yep.
So, Enerva. Anything important to say about Enerva?
I think that fight's probably like one of the worst ones for Moonkin. It's like actually just like a bad fight.
You're single target most of the time, and then sometimes ads spawn. And the ads don't always spawn, because sometimes you push the boss, and she cancels her ad cast, and sometimes you pre-immune the ad debuff, so you get like one ad or two ads instead of what's it supposed to be 4.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, the whole gimmick of that fight is like it's like a really like hard like single target DPS check, but like there's ads, so it's like okay, you're just gonna run AoE talents only for ads to not consistently spawn, and you're just griefing single target, which is kind of the main thing you want to do on that boss. But then it's like okay, you just run single target talents on a boss with ads, and it never feels good doing that. So it's just a
yep.
pretty
Me
weird
and Sang
fight.
were both in progression for that boss, and I sat pretty quick because like it has gear for us, and we thought it might be a loot boss, but the DPS check was pretty tight week 1, and Sang just had more gear, so we were able to bring in someone who did more single target damage.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good Moonkin boss at all.
Yeah, definitely seems like one of the worst fights of the tier, for sure. Just because, like, even as Night Fae, I have to hold, like, I don't know if you guys, because you guys didn't do progression on this fight as Night Fae, but, like, you have to hold your Night Fae damage for, like, second Celestial alignment anyways, because if you press Night Fae on CD, you're pressing it whenever ads are up, and it's just, like, not good there. So you have to wait.
Yeah, any fight where you have to like hold Convoke for Celestial Alignment feels weird as fuck.
Yeah.
I don't actually mind it that much, but I definitely think it happens a lot just because I feel like that pressing Convoke by itself is just so bad if there's like multiple targets and it's just like not really worth.
Mm-hmm. I do definitely agree with that, and it's like also if you're waiting like for a boat window and you're like already gonna be waiting for 15 seconds anyways, you may as well just kind of wait until Celestial Alignment is up at that point. Sometimes it feels like because all right, I've been waiting 2 minutes and 15 seconds where I can just wait another 45 and get like a pretty decent Convoke as opposed to a medium one.
Yeah, it's gonna make farm really annoying too, because you've gotta try to do some complex math to figure out if the boss is actually gonna die and if you're gonna miss a use
Yeah, it's all
if you hold it
about
or not.
Mm-hmm.
it's literally all about kill timing. It's so annoying.
And then like you always have to play it as if it's gonna be optimal, so like people are gonna play properly, right? So like this week it was like around a 4-minute kill time that we had on Huntsman, and Hungering Destroyer also would have been about 4 minutes, but we had some deaths, so it ended up being 4.5 minutes. So like you should have used Convoke on cooldown because there were deaths, but like there's no way for you to know that, so you've just got to play it as if it's going to be a 4-minute kill. And then it's going to get even faster, like as progression goes on too, or as farm goes on. So Yeah, it's gonna be kind of a headache to play optimally on farm. Kind of
Definitely
just wish it was a 3-minute button.
You wish it was a 3-minute button, so it had less like opportunities for gameplay. Really?
Oh, I mean, make it easier to play. I think a lot of questions I get about Convoke are like, how do you use it with your cooldowns? Do you slam it on CD? Do you hold it for your CD? Do you hold your CD for your Convoke? Like, I don't know, just fucking make it easy, man.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like a situation where it's like every fight is different because of the timings.
Yep. Or like, what would be even better than that? Just give me a way to lower my Celestial Alignment cooldown, maybe, perhaps.
Please?
Like we've had in the past. And it
Please,
was
one
really
legendary?
good, and it was unanimously enjoyed. And then they gave us this fucking dog shit that destroys our stat scaling instead. Really cool. Love it.
Yeah, get me off this current legendary.
Oh my
please.
god.
Delete this fucking garbage, please.
Yeah, Balance of All Things is definitely
Bad. I know.
yeah.
Awful.
I
Cringe.
Cringe.
Yep.
I know we're not even there yet, but like when we get to Stone Legion Generals, I'm gonna get really mad about
Why?
boat. Just gonna say it, but when we get there.
Okay. All right, so Council Blood is next. Is Moonkin actually good on this fight, or is it more pad damage? Because I think
Moonkin's the best class on that fight.
Really?
If you do the strat we did, Moonkin's the best
I'd
class.
say-
It's not even close.
I would say that first kill is like really good, yeah, because I think it was like just waiters are like actually a big thing that need to die, and it's not pad at all. Obviously, like now with the hotfix, like kind of doing damage to the boss itself is like kind of important to avoid insane healing checks with dancing fevers, but still like really good. Like waiters are like they need to die. So
And then,
very
of
good
course,
class.
dutiful attendance. We're probably one of the best specs of being able to hit those, us and MM Hunter, right?
It's a good class, but it's like again the thing at Flame Boat is like if you're holding, you have to like hold your proc, I guess, for it to like really be very good at it. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because I think right now it seems like it's just pad damage because yeah, it's just like waiter and attendant damage. But at the same time, like they have to die,
Look at damage taken on that fight if you're not killing waiters fast. Like waiters add up a lot. They don't individually do a lot of damage or like big hits, so it's harder to notice. But if waiters aren't getting killed, they'll end up doing like second highest damage on that fight to your raid.
Sure.
I don't know if they can get to first. Dancing Fever does a lot, but it'll be like second highest probably. They gotta die. And we're good at killing them.
Yeah. All right, so now we got Sludge Fist. Probably, I would say it's probably one of the most fun fights. I enjoy it a lot for how the patchwork style of Sludge Fist is with the with like the vulnerability windows. Maybe you guys have a little bit different opinion.
That was a pretty good fight for sure. Normally single target bosses are pretty boring, but this one was, well, one, they just did an insane job with the tuning on it. The tuning is so good, which was very surprising. But on top of that, like, the class is just good. We have good damage for like 2 out of the 4 pillars. We have pretty decent damage even on the 2 pillars that we don't have cooldowns. And we've got the Iron Ass.
Yeah. Barkskin being on a minute CD for this fight, really strong, and then Well-Honed Instincts, of course, is infinite healing.
Yep. We played the first kill as Kyrian, so we had Well-Honed Instincts. And I don't think Kyrian was bad for the fight. For some guilds who had less gear, I guess, in order to kill it week 1, they needed to get like good Moonkin RNG with Convoke, and I think that was fine for them. But for us, like, our guild didn't need that damage. We're able to meet the check just by doing the fight correctly. And I think we actually saved wipes to like the Moonkins being as tanky as they were with Kyrian. You also give your partner a little bit of mitigation, although it's at a point where the mitigation doesn't matter too much. Because like the pillar slams are the easy part. Because you're overloading healer cooldowns on the pillar slams. Nobody's dying to pillar slams unless like they misplay. So the actual like Kyrian mitigation on at that point doesn't matter too much. But having well-honed instincts for that fight on progression was nutty.
It only gets better too whenever you start being able to pick up innate resolve later on with double endurance slots.
When do we get double endurance slots?
Naya gets double endurance slots on 25, and we're at 18 right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think Pelagos also gets it at 25. Not 100% sure though. But yeah, Dreamweaver already has double endurance if you really want to play for it. Like, I've been playing it in PvP. It's actually just stupid amounts of healing.
Yeah, but let's make one thing clear. Don't play Dreamweaver in PvE.
Oh no, do not. This shit's bad.
Yeah, that's a pretty common question. Like, oh, you play Dreamweaver, double endurance or double potency? It's like, no, we have one good potency. You don't need the second one.
We have zero. We have zero good potency. It's only the class one, or it's the only covenant one.
Conflux is pretty decent.
Yeah, that's the only. Yeah, okay. If that's the one you're referencing, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Naya versus Dreamweaver, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, it's like that's just the only good potency at all. Like the others are what 1% DPS, and that doesn't compare to Naya Mastery. Like she juices you the fuck up whenever you press Convoke. It's really good.
Fury of the Skies is like 1.1% damage increase or some shit.
Yep, love that.
No thanks.
Sang, anything to say about Sludgefest, really?
I mean, it was a really fun boss for sure. It was like, and I definitely think that, like, I know, like, on the rekill, it was Night Fae, right? But Kyrian was doing, like, really well. Obviously, it never looks good on details, but, like, I went back and I was like, I'd still be topping damage on the first pillar break, even as Kyrian, if you count both parts. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good Moonkin boss. I think Night Fae is extremely good for that boss. Probably makes it like one of the early again. Scaling is an issue, but it's like probably one of the most powerful classes in that boss.
You ran Bell plus Ordnance on that fight, right, Sang?
I ran Quantum Device and Ordnance on that fight because I didn't have a Bell on the first two kills.
How do you like double unused trinkets for Moonkin?
Oh, I mean, well, for that boss, it's like perfectly fine, just kind of annoying, and reminding myself to, hit the one trinket like 16 seconds before the charge timer, because otherwise it won't come up in time. But otherwise, I mean, it's really powerful on that boss. I don't think it's like a thing you'd do on other bosses at all, other than that one, just because it's literally like a 100% damage amp. Yeah, it kind of feels really nice to, have both trinkets active and slam a Convoke and like jump up to the 13k DPS.
Wish I had double unused. Imperial Ordnance continues to elude me.
Have you been farming it?
Farming's a strong word. I've been attempting to get it whenever there is a Spire's Key. I have a balanced loot spec, and I complete a Spire's Key, and then it doesn't drop. What can you do?
Fair point. Why don't you just PvP for it? Forehead?
PvP for Imperial Ordnance?
Yep.
Question mark?
Yep. Alright, so Stone Legion Generals. Sang, where did you want to start with this fight? Because I think you're pretty opinionated about this boss.
Yeah, because I got to have fun doing it. It was it's just really bad. Like, not just like the fight itself. It was like very underwhelming as a Moonkin boss too. Like, despite there being a lot of targets, Granted, they're stacked most of the time, so I don't think like Moonkin excels at stacked AoE as compared to other classes. But there's for one thing, like there's an insane amount of movement on that fight. So like I actually like had flashes of like, man, if like Stellar Drift didn't allow you to like cast while moving, the class would not be on that boss. It
Okay.
wouldn't. But outside of that, I think my biggest thing I hate is the intermissions for Moonkin are like, it's kind of mixy, like good and bad. Basically, um, like you're killing commandos and they shield at 20%. That's like the only thing that matters is like this 4-second window where they're sub 20%. You got to break this big absorb, which is like very good for boat. And that, well, when you have it set up, you'll do a lot to that specific commando. But then it's like, okay, you have to set up for again, and it takes like 2 more commandos to do that because you have to wait for your eclipse to fade. You have to pull astral power back up, and playing around the legendary just feels ass. I hate it. It's
And
like kind of like a good and very bad thing because like you just like, okay, you help a lot or a decent amount on one commando. It's still like even with legendary and pooled stuff, you're like not doing as much as a hunter or DK, but when you don't have any, actually just like doing absolutely nothing.
yeah, okay. So for those who don't know, like the commandos can't be hit by AOE effects whenever they're shielded, right?
I mean they can. I don't think that
Made
reduces
up.
like any AoE. So
Okay. Okay.
they're
The
fully
Dungeon
AoE.
Journal fucking made that one
Yeah,
up.
that's
Okay,
fully
so that's
made up.
made up via the Dungeon Journal. That's just like not even true. All right, that's
No.
cool.
Okay, so Consecrate can't hit it, and like Consecration type AoEs can't hit it. So I guess D&D probably too. I
But
think
their
that's it.
swords can hit it. I don't. And wild spirits can hit it.
Yeah, because Wild Spirits, it's just about how like the abilities are coded, I guess. And Siori explained this. He's a smart guy who looks at all the like spell IDs and stuff all the time. But basically, Wild Spirits is like coded as like single target and not whatever AOE spell flag they use to make them quote immune to AOE damage. I'm pretty sure Starfall hits them too.
That's weird.
And,
Okay, I didn't
and
know
like
that.
Starfire Cleave also hits them. Like, yeah, it's fake news.
Yeah. So the fight is just it's like something that when you get there and you play around it, you realize like, this fight is just weird. You end up using your cooldowns for the super short burst AoE because you have nowhere else to really use it. You're stopping damage on the bosses anyways. So like when we're grouping a bunch of them up and you're using all your cooldowns just to AoE, it's like either that or you just completely AFK and literally just don't use your cooldowns. It's almost the exact same, honestly. It feels because it's like completely unnecessary, but it helps a little bit. Classes doesn't do the intermission is like it just feels really bad, but it's also again a meme phase, but it's also the hardest phase, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I found that we don't really do too much other than just maintaining high boss damage throughout the fight while trying to AoE. So I mean, overall, it's like okay. Most people are focusing the ads, and we kind of are too. They're just doing a little more, but the whole time while they're doing that, we're hitting the boss a little bit. So kind of get a little value out of that.
Moonkin's like top boss damage on that fight,
Really?
but like bottom ad damage. So
Mhm.
and the boss damage is not what matters. It's the ad damage, especially
Yeah.
in the shield windows.
Yeah, keep in mind that like Moonkins are doing like top damage to the bosses like phase 1 and 2, and that's without like hitting the boss. Like we're like usually cleaving off Goliaths or skirmishers and
Okay.
just end up being top boss damage just because, but we're fucking like bottom of the pack on the actual targets we're hitting. It's kind of funny.
That makes sense. I mean, it's kind of weird to hear it like that because you think of Moonkin as like a sustained AOE spec, and this is kind of an AOE fight, but it's like a not really an AOE fight in the same vein that you see normal fights like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just certain classes do quite a bit of AoE, and this is how it is.
Dude, it's so weird
Maybe
that
we
this
get
is
an
the
execute
first
next
tier.
expansion.
I wouldn't hold your breath on that one, dude. I would not be waiting for an execute for Moonkin.
Yeah, I mean, our niche right now is kind of fine. Like, really tanky, good spread AoE. Because of our good spread AoE, I don't think like it would be fair if we also did like the best stacked cleave. Like, it'd be pretty far from fair. I think the class design is fine. It's just like stacked cleave is most relevant in raiding. It's like either single target or like AoE fights are usually stacked cleave. They're not usually super spread out kind of stuff. And if it is super spread out, it's like an irrelevant boss like Kill Toss.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense too. Yeah. So difference between Kyrian and Night Fae on Stone Legion General saying. What did you see is like a major difference?
It was that was actually like a fight that like Kyrian was like pretty good, I think. Just because every minute or so the skirmishers come out, and granted it's like a case of like your partner's doing way more damage than you are, so there's obviously that cap, but it was like getting some value. Like, I mean, it was like pretty decent in terms of like damage lineup. But Night Fae I think would probably still be my choice. Just again, the fight is just so weird. It's like damage doesn't matter, but it does. It's just kind of weird. Like if you want to have cooldowns for the intermission, you have to blast your CDs on pull on the boss, but you end up stopping boss damage anyways. So it's really, really weird. And but I think both covenants were like kind of just fine. I'd almost say like Kyrian and Night Fae are like pretty much the same. Maybe more value on Kyrian because at least you get like slightly more damage for like skirmishers and whatnot.
Sure. All right, so with Stone Legion Generals down, we have Sired and Athris, which I think everybody expected it to be Blackhand levels of interesting and fun and like that kind of level. How would do you guys enjoy Nathrius first off, Gape?
Yep. Was a good boss. I think a lot of the criticism people are throwing at it is like, especially in comparison to Blackhand, Phase 1 was not a DPS check at all. We're literally holding DPS, and that's kind of insanely weird. And then maybe also Phase 2 is too easy. I don't know. I don't know if Phase 2 is too easy or if our guild is just like fucking insane. But maybe looking at like how fast pieces got through the boss as well, and like I don't think Fat Shark has killed it yet, but they're probably gonna kill it soon, right?
I would assume so. Yeah, they finished their farm clear.
Yeah, like
soon, like recently.
The boss is definitely too easy overall, and I don't know if that's just because Phase 1 was too easy or Phase 2 is also too easy. And I think for guilds killing it in the future, it's gonna be like a much shorter pull boss because of gear. Like the only hard, like, quote unquote hard part of the fight is P3, and that's the only part that has a real DPS check. And that DPS check was probably out of reach week 1, and then we obviously like kind of blasted it week 2, and now it's just getting even more insane, like how hard that boss is getting blasted in the last phase. So yeah, probably too easy, but really fun and a really like good spectacle. It's the coolest looking boss they've ever made. Massacre's an insanely awesome ability visually.
Yeah, that's the Ramornia drawing the lines on the ground and like slashing through the air, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and if you play with game sounds, she's also like screaming while she's doing it. It's really fucking cool.
All right, so phase 1 and phase 2 for Moonkin. Was this fight like these two phases are like really, really strong for balance, right? Both of these phases?
Not phase 1.
Really?
Phase 1's a little weird with I'd say Moonkin's like pretty good, but like again, it's like a case of stopping damage. So it's I think Moonkin does okay AoE, but probably not the best. So, and that's like the only thing. Boss damage is kind of irrelevant. Gives good utility with the being tanky to the blood price and being able to go at 3 stacks instead of 2 or and just the roar as well to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in terms of damage, it's fine, but because boss damage doesn't matter and you're actually holding DPS, you have like hunters staggering wild spirits for different ad sets, and then on like some later ad sets, I think the third ads are a little weird. So you just don't do too many soaks on the third ads, and then the fourth set of ads, DKs have their hands up again, so that set gets melted. Like cooldowns are just staggered, or the amount of people soaking is staggered in a way that the little ads always die fast. And on Mythic, they have to die fast anyway, otherwise you soak them back up and you get your stack back.
Oh.
So Moonkin's just not really like amazing at that. It's certainly not bad, but I mean, quite often me and Sang will come out of that phase as like 9th, 10th on the meter because we're not gonna burst them down ever with Starfall. It's Wild Spirits and DK cooldowns, and especially Windwalker that just cut those ads down.
Yeah, Windwalker pretty good right now. Okay, so phase 2 then, with all of the horseman ads and like moving around the room with the Cabalists and whatnot. How is Moonkin as a whole on that? We saw you guys using Celestial and Convoke, I think, on that. God, what is that ad's name?
Sincere.
Lady Sincere.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put Lady Sincere in our hole.
Really? Okay.
She goes bye. Yeah, me and Sang are top damage on that by far.
Okay, because you guys are CA and convoking it, so you're even ahead of like Fired Up using combustion on it, whatnot.
Yep, like 75 to 100k damage ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we fuck that lady. Consensually, of course.
Yeah, I think
But she dies.
Moonkin's really good phase 2. I think it's
So catch up back on from the phase 1, shooting meters. And just like perfect like spread, like 3 to 5 target cleave pretty much once the Kabbalist starts spawning. And high movement. Yeah, whatever. And and then just killing that one ad, very powerful. Cooldowns line up pretty okay to blast an extra convoke in that phase and have them all come up for the last phase. And you can get 2 convokes in the last phase even. So
yeah,
pretty good phase.
How is Balance's damage in the last phase? Because I think I saw a log, and I want to say Moonkin was like second or third in damage in the final phase. Was that about indicative of what you guys were seeing as well, or were you guys a little bit lower than that?
I think it depends heavily.
I think it's under the execute classes, but
okay.
Yeah, like the execute classes should do better, but especially in the case of like DK, that phase is like pretty hard for melee. And as a Moonkin, like if you ever need to move, you're just like, all right, well, I'll throw up Starfall and I'm chilling. Like you obviously don't want to do that, but there are times where it's like 5+ seconds of continuous movement, so that's what you should do.
And the massacre and whatnot.
And yeah, during the massacre too, it's like other range can't really do damage during the massacre, and we're just chilling. And then like seeds, if you ever get Fatal Finesse, it's like it's a Moonkin, you don't really care, you just live. Meanwhile, hunters are like scared for their fucking lives anytime anything that isn't raid damage is happening to them, and yeah. And warlocks are fine if they have wall, but if they get like 2 seeds in that phase, then they're a little scared. Like Moonkin, you don't give a fuck. You will have bark skin if probably you'll have bark skin if you're not using it on the blood price, and then even if you don't, you can always go bear form. We're playing Guardian Affinity, like you can't die.
Dude, did you guys play Guardian?
Massacre.
Did you guys play Guardian Affinity for most of the tier? I know Sang is a lover of Bear Affinity.
Yep, Guardian Affinity is the good shit.
Okay.
Especially when we were Kyrian, I mean, Resto Affinity is a DPS loss, man.
As weird as it sounds, I'm pretty sure I swapped Resto Affinity for Denathria's kill.
Hmm?
Only reason is phase 1 healing. That's all.
Okay.
I was literally just casting
Hmm.
regrowth or wild growth in phase 1. And once I figured out I was like living blood prices just fine, I was like, yeah, I think this is
When
fine.
we were Night Fae and we didn't have the Endurance Conduit anymore, I felt in danger on the first couple blood prices, and there were times where there were some pulls where the first blood price my HP like barely moved, and there were other pulls where I went down like 10k HP after the blood price and then just didn't get healed and died. And after that happened like the second time, and I got like not yelled at, but like, hey, why are you dying in phase 1 sort of thing. It's like, yeah, okay, damage doesn't matter. I'm going bear form on every blood price for the rest of my fucking life. And if you go bear form, you actually can't die.
Oh
It's
yeah.
impossible.
Yeah. Bear form is always pretty nuts, and especially if you're playing Guardian Affinity, you just press a frenzy anyways, and it's like, all right, I'm full health. There's no way I die.
Yeah, so here's what you do. Like, the half global before the blood price, like, finish casting, you hit your bear form, then you're up in the air, and then as soon as the blood price stun finishes, you frenzied regen, wild charge the boss, and you shift back into Moonkin form. You get, like, half of the frenzied regen healing, but that's enough to make sure you live the frontal after.
Yeah.
And you're also on the ground faster than anyone else and not taking fall damage on top of that. It's like, yeah, you can't die.
So you get about like 15% of your maximum HP back, and then, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And of course, you're also not taking fall damage.
Yeah, well, also consider that I'm pre-bear forming the blood price, so I'm taking a smaller percentage of my HP in damage as well.
Does
So it's like even more value.
How is the blood price in the last phase? Is it scary damage-wise or not really?
If you're a Moonkin, you're not scared.
Okay.
I think it's scary for people. Some like I think like two of the blood prices happen like shortly after some other damage event. Usually it's like a knock into like some people might get like knocked into red shit, and then they're like low health going into blood price. But that's like the only scary times really. And
Bear form.
generally Moonkin isn't a problem at all.
Yeah, if I ever have a seed dot on me before the blood price, just bear form it.
Okay.
And again, you can't die. If you ever die as a Moonkin, you've done something wrong. You're almost 100% in control of your own life.
I definitely do agree with that, and especially since you can also cast regrowth on yourself if you really need it as well. There's a lot that you can do.
I think if you're ever gonna spend the time to hard cast regrowth, unless like that literal one regrowth is all you need, you're just better off going bear form.
Yeah. Makes sense too. Alright, so that would be the fights concluded. Alright, so next thing, and I think that you guys probably knew this was coming, we need to talk about you guys both swapping covenants, because I'm sure you've been asked this 1,000 times, but why did you guys swap covenants in relation to World First progression?
It all comes down to the final boss. That's pretty much it. I think the at least my story of even starting Kyrian was that I think in any world it would just be better to switch to Night Fae than it would be to ever like it'd be a better situation to be in than to ever be in a situation where I'm Night Fae and I need to swap Kyrian. And it's like the main reasoning why I started Kyrian. And then basically just like pulling the last boss comes down to like, okay, well, the last phase 1 is like phase 1 ads aren't really, they don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 1 single target DPS kind of mattered at the time, so it was like, yeah, blasting the boss on pull with no ads, that'd be like very good for that. So that was like a plus for Night Fae right there. Phase 2 was like, okay, this is like a big argument of this could mean a lot for Kyrian. You're doing spread AoE, you're probably doing good damage. So okay, that's like maybe kind of a plus for Kyrian. And I think I forgot if I wasn't even in for the initial pulls, but ended up being that I think Night Fae would have just been fine in that phase as well. And then phase 3, which we were like pretty certain was like this is the end of the fight. There's not going to be a secret phase, but you never know. It's pure single target, and there it was like, okay, yeah, this is like definitely a Night Fae pro boss. And so it's like just swap.
Yeah, here's the thing between like Kyrian and Night Fae. The only thing I regret about Kyrian was telling other people to go Kyrian. I think for mine and Sang's purposes, being Kyrian was completely fine and could have ended up being the better move in the end. It turns out with the damage profile of the last boss, we wanted to be Night Fae, but there's no way to know that ahead of time because everything on that fight outside of P1 is an unknown. Like, no idea how the horseman ads were going to spawn in P2. No idea how Cabalists were going to spawn because now you have these added horseman ads. And then P3, you know, you could probably assume that it would be the same kind of single target burn from Mythic, from Heroic. But you don't know. There's some dumbass, like, funny wording in the journal, like, what awaits beyond the mirror is only known to Nathria himself. Like, so what if I go into the mirror and now there's a bunch of ads I gotta kill or some shit, you know what I mean? Or what if there's more Cabalists in the mirror for some reason? Like, you don't know. And the situation we were in, Kyrian looks better on paper for an ad fight. It's definitely an ad fight on Heroic. It might be one on Mythic. The fight right before that is an ad fight. Although it ended up being more of a control fight than like a blast AoE fight like we talked about earlier. So it's like, why would we not go Kyrian and then swap Night Fae if we have to? And after doing a day of progression on Denathrius, getting through P2 and seeing that P3 was just a single target burn, seeing in P2 that Cabalists don't spawn right away, for an entire minute there's no Cabalists in that phase. It's Remornia, the boss, and then ads that you need to single target down. And then on top of that, at the start of P2, we're assigning range to go dick down Lady Sincere. Perfect situation for Convoke. So it's just literally sent like one line to Sang after like doing a few hours on that boss. We were like, it was Monday night, it was like 11 or 12, and we're going to end raid in like an hour or something. It's like, yeah, Sang, I think I'm going Night Fae after this. Like, after raid, how about you? And he's like, yep. And then we did it. It's like, it's pretty clear that Night Fae was the choice. This is the good shit.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense. I ended up swapping too because like I felt like I was not even able to play Kyrian at a level where I was able to even get enough damage out of it because like there was a lot of micromanaging your partner's damage that felt involved there where I was like, or I could just press Convoke and do damage. So definitely a little bit of give and take there for sure.
Yeah, I've always been a little kind of like, it was a really tough choice. Like, I mean, like when the expansion came out and I started leveling, it was like kind of on my mind the whole time, like what covenant am I going to pick when I hit max level, and like it's like kind of annoying because you never like at that point it's like you kind of got to decide like everything. But thankfully, the catch up was very easy anyways, so like didn't even concern me to like literally get to the last boss and swap covenants at that point. It would not matter. Like it would just be the only point I'd ever be very bad is if you have to swap back again. So it's like something that I chose Kyrian, committed to playing Kyrian until I absolutely know for the last boss I want to be another covenant. And I've always been kind of afraid of Kyrian in regards to like the Pelagos orbs and stuff. A lot of weird stuff to it that's like really good on paper, but like you never know what you can or can't do.
Getting your pool eaten by damage taken and random Ysera's gift healing taking up.
I had a lot of kind of contempt on like, I feel like this is definitely not going to be as good as it might be, but I'm going to pick it anyways because I don't want to get into a situation where there's like a very clear like Night Fae is like looking really good, but then there's like, okay, I want to swap Night Fae for last boss, but then like Kyrian, I don't know. It's I think all in all, no mistakes were really made.
Yeah, I also just want to point out because I've had people accuse me of this before. Both of us independently came to the decision to pick Kyrian before the expansion, and at the like I just explained earlier, we both also like realized that we needed to go Night Fae for Denathrius at like the same time.
I was almost arguing several times. Actually, I just want to swap earlier, man. Like, I think at some
I mean,
point,
I wanted to swap earlier too. Night Fae is more fun to play, and I wanted to be Night Fae from the beginning.
I
Yeah.
actually was. I think I started fucking screaming like, dude, like on Stone Legions. I was like, I wanted to go Night Fae.
It's like sitting there like 200 pulls into Stone Legion General is just like so done with the fight. Ah, man, I want to go Night Fae.
Just rocking back and forth. I don't want to be Kyrian anymore. I don't want to be Kyrian anymore.
I can't
Literally,
pick
like-
up Pelagos balls anymore. Please
It
make it
was so
stop.
funny too because I'm pretty sure, like on Council of Blood, like when we were pulling that, we were like, at least I was like very hyped. Like, imagine being Night Fae on this boss. You know, we were doing like
Yep.
really good because it's it was good Kyrian
Night
boss.
Fae on that boss is
And,
bad.
and then the next boss, I'm like, dude, I wish I was Night Fae, man. This is kind of funny. How very swingy it was both sides. So, but again, I don't think any mistakes were made. The fact that the catch-up was good and you really like only needed like the fact that the timing that we swapped worked perfectly fine. We were gonna go in our raid re-clear. We get like 6 renown just from killing bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And you only needed, I think, like 7 just to get the finesse conduit, which is a finesse conduit. But I think you could play that covenant at literally like renown 2 and be just fine.
One potency slot's all you need. One 145 potency conduit is all the damage.
Yep. I did luck into. Wait, did we both get the world boss conduit on the reset there? I know I did.
Nope.
Oh, you didn't.
Oh,
I spent 10,000 Stygia to get that thing to
200?
to 200. Yep.
Oh, man.
I also never looted in normal or heroic, and I wasn't in on the first kill on mythic, the Zymox rebirth conduit. So I had to. Yeah, some of my Stygia was spent blasting that thing up.
I only got the heroic one this week.
That's nice.
Yep.
All right, so speaking, dude, that Stygia buying conduit bullshit is actually so annoying since we have 4 specs. But so we can segue into the State of Moonkin discussion. So last time I think we all talked was on Sloot's State of Balance show, and most of our concerns at that time were on astral power spending on AOE and like generation kind of stuff, like via our dots. Like we had pretty big dot issues at that point. I think I would argue that we still do. And then our weird anti-synergy and like lack of secondary scaling relative to other specs. And then on top of that, no fun legendaries. Would you say that anything realistically has changed right now, Sang?
Sorry, I got distracted. It was I know it was something about the Sloot interview, right?
Yeah, okay, so basically the things that we had problems with during the Sloot interview were ways that we spent astral power on AoE plus our generation on AoE, weird secondary anti-synergy stuff, and then no fun legendaries. Would you say that Moonkin has changed at all? Or
I think astral power generation felt not as bad as I kind of remember. Kind of felt all right.
Okay.
And I think the AoE thing was probably still the same. I think like the original view of like that was like, I think it was like Moonkin was like really buggy last time I was playing it, so it was like this is doing no damage. I don't think something was very wrong with it, and I think it got some like buffs after that point.
yeah,
They made it a lot better, but I think it was like all right. Astral power generation, I feel like I haven't had issues at all. It's just still maybe a little weird playing with it. With the boat legendary, and it's kind of like if you're AoEing the whole time, you're just like squeezing in like maybe 1 star surge in between like eclipses, and nothing too exciting. But otherwise, I think it was all right.
do you think Moonkin is fun right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very fun. I think Convoke itself is a very, very fun ability. So yeah, it's fun.
Gape, you nod your head. in agreement?
Every time you get a good opener with Convoke, some dumbass in the guild has to say, "These guys were Kyrian?"
Yep, that is how it is.
I always every single time.
Every time you get the crit full moon
Yeah.
and like the 5-star surge Convoke, it's like
Dude, speaking of crit full moon,
Bursting for 30K or some shit.
I think I had my highest full moon I've ever seen. I think it was on a council, even though it hit like 3 bosses, 130K. It was like a triple crit cleave. It was like big.
That's big damn.
It may have hit actually more than 3 targets. I think it was like 5 targets, but it was like, yeah, it was
the great
a
thing
fat
about
full
full
moon.
moon is that it'll crit more often than not because it's astral.
True.
Love that.
So do you think that like Moonkin is fun because of how it plays, or do you think it's fun because it does pretty good amounts of damage at this point?
I think it's fun both. I think it's fun in general, just how it plays. Like even as Kyrian, I think it's like pretty good in dungeons as
Mhm.
far as I'm aware. So it's like I wouldn't say it's just the damage. I think the class feels really nice to play. Casting and moving is a blessing. And it kind of feels good to, be set up and spam starfires and AoE and not star surge single target. As hopefully it doesn't come to that point. But
Dude,
Yep. Listening to every dumbass caster bitch because they don't get to slide around and cast while moving just makes me smile every time.
what the hell is the deal with not star surging during lunar eclipse and instead just star firing being capped on astral power? No, that's actually so funny that we do that past 5 targets.
Yeah, that's a bad bit, but unfortunately is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to fix that.
I
Other than stackable Starfall, but you don't really even have enough AP to stack Starfall outside of very specific situations. So like, it doesn't matter too much, I guess.
it'd be better than not star surging at all and just being capped on astral power, I guess.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like you don't run into that situation super often.
Yeah.
I feel like you'll run into it when you pop your CDs and you Convoke because you're getting a bunch of free astral power, and that's mostly it.
In CA, I definitely will say that I run into it more than outside, like in any other situation, for sure. All right. So if you guys could change one thing about Moonkin, what would it be at this point? Gape, we can start with you.
That's a tough one. Well, we're pretty tanky, good spread AoE. It's nice not being target capped. Love rubbing that one in too. That's a good one.
That's a good bit. Yep, I agree with that.
Anytime someone's like bitching about target caps, it's like, yeah, well, you do the most damage at 5 targets. You do way more than I do, so shut the fuck up, bitch. But I don't know, things I could change, like just I guess the thing we were just talking about. I don't care too much about stackable Starfall, but if we're ever gonna just rather cap AP than spend it because Starfall isn't stackable, they should probably just make it stackable.
Sang,
I don't really see a reason not to.
what would you change?
it'd be the legendary.
Which one? Boat?
Oh yeah, that too.
That needs to go. I don't mind. It's so weird. Like Night Fae is really fun, right? And I think like the problem with like a lot of the other legendaries is just none of them work with Convoke. So it's
Yeah.
like the only one that does work is really good to create an entire Convoke. So I mean, it's like I love it, but I hate it for just playing around it. And I wish like if I could change anything, like make some of the other legendaries like interact with Convoke the Spirits, and just I think that would probably be a good enough change to maybe make a different legendary pretty good.
It's like a balancing nightmare too, because I don't know if any of you have seen like people complaining about it in PvP. Obviously, it's pretty easy to stop Convoke in PvP. Like, there's a million different. You can interrupt it, you can stun them, or use whatever CC.
Yeah.
But it is incredibly unfair to just kind of just win a match because you had like a second of uninterrupted convoke and you dropped a full moon on their head that crits for like 12k or whatever, and then you can also just slam them with 3-star surges instantly. Like that's definitely unfair.
The 0.0
And it
second full
only
moon is the issue with Convoke and PvP
it
for sure.
only exists because of boat. Like, yeah, I guess full moon is an issue no matter what, because you could still crit even if you only have 5% crit rate. But like, again, more often than not, if you're convoking with your cooldowns, your spells are going to crit, especially full moon. So like, just don't have that. Just delete boat.
Delete
please.
vote. Rework it, something. I don't know. It definitely... It's been a problem even since its inception. Like, even in beta, like, we all identified that legendary is, like, really, really bad, so...
There's two really easy solutions staring them in the face. Like, it's either Orbit Breaker or it's IFE.
Please, God, give me Orbit Breaker. That would be the best. That is the best legendary.
Yep. I've actually like, man, I suggest like that would be the best one. Would have fixed a lot of problems that I had initially too with AoE scaling and astral power generation.
Oh, dude, we don't even fucking Moonfire on AoE until we're in Solar Eclipse kind of shit right now, too. There's so much wrong.
That legendary would do wonders for Moonfire.
Yes, it would. At least, you would at least put up a couple of Moonfires. I don't know if you necessarily have to Moonfire the whole pack in Lunar Eclipse, but at least you'd put up a couple.
I think it would still depend on the size, but I think you would actually probably prefer to spend... Just assuming they transfer it like 1-to-1, which they obviously won't do. Like 20 ticks of Moonfire for a full moon is way too fucking overpowered. They would nerf it in some way. I don't know how, but they would nerf it in some way. Probably just require a higher number of hits, if I had to guess. Like 40 or 50, some shit like that.
That makes sense.
Rather than having to change, like, you could change it to a half moon, or you could change it to a moon that doesn't give any AP, or like whatever, but their easiest solution, and therefore the one that they will use if they make this legendary, will be to make it just take more hits of Moonfire. That being said, it would be a math problem, I guess, like how many targets you'd Moonfire, but I feel like if you're getting the full cleave damage of full moon and you have a bunch of targets that are going to live, you're actually just going to Moonfire everything. And then it's going to start raining full moons and the pack's going to die.
Yeah. I definitely do agree with those sentiments. I think that those two are the biggest problems that we definitely see right now. I think that's going to be it. Damn. Congratulations again, guys, on the World First. I really do appreciate you guys for coming on. Again, where can everybody find you once more, Sang?
Twitch TV, Sang Helios WoW.
And Gape?
Twitch TV, Gapezilla.
All right, dudes. That's going to be it for us today. Make sure to check these guys out. It was a great... I enjoyed talking to them. We learned a lot about how Moonkin fared in Castle Nathria. And I am looking forward to having one of these again whenever you guys win another World First. So congratulations once more, and we will see you guys later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.